The first few minutes were unsettling. It wasn't a live feed. The image was buffered, slightly out of sync, like watching a recording played on an old VHS player. But there he was, my grandfather, younger than I'd ever imagined him, meticulously cleaning the engine of the Bronco under the harsh Nevada sun. He moved with a strange intensity, his eyes fixed on something beyond the vehicle. The camera's perspective shifted subtly. I found myself drifting slightly closer to his image, an uncomfortable intimacy blooming within the confines of the dashboard. A low hum emanated from the system, vibrating through the seat and into my bones. It wasn't mechanical, it felt sentient. Then the scene changed. My grandfather was still working on the engine, but now he seemed trapped. The camera zoomed in slowly on his face, capturing a flicker of terror in his eyes. He glanced directly at the lens, a silent plea for help etched onto his features. Then, the image cut to black, replaced by a looping recording. Him endlessly cleaning the same section of the engine, over and over again, always with that look of desperate fear. I tried adjusting the settings, attempting to access other recordings, but it was impossible. The system only offered this single, horrifying loop, a digital echo of his last moments. The humming intensified, growing into a palpable pressure within the Bronco. Suddenly, the image shifted again. I wasn't seeing my grandfather anymore. The camera was now pointed outwards, capturing the outside of the Bronco through his lens. But it wasn't the vast Nevada desert I expected. Instead, I saw a dark, narrow alleyway, lined with decaying buildings that shouldn't have existed. The rain intensified, and distorted figures began to move in the periphery of the frame, shadowy shapes that seemed to watch me. The hum reached a deafening crescendo. My hands were shaking as I realized the camera wasn't just recording. It was showing me something else, something my grandfather had experienced. It felt like a bleed-through between realities. I tried to pull over, but the Bronco wouldn't respond. The steering wheel was locked, the accelerator jammed. The camera continued its relentless display of the alleyway, now with a clearer sense of urgency. The figures were closer, moving with unnatural speed. I frantically searched for a way to disable the system, ripping at the wiring behind the dashboard, but nothing worked. It seemed permanently connected to this other place. A guttural voice echoed through the car, not spoken aloud, but directly into my mind. He's waiting. The camera's view zoomed in on a single point, my grandfather's hand reaching out from within the engine bay. The camera abruptly cut back to my grandfather's face, his expression now devoid of any emotion. He wasn't afraid anymore. Instead, he smiled knowingly. "You shouldn't have looked," he said, his voice a distorted echo within the car's speakers. As I stared at him, trying to comprehend what was happening, I noticed something else, small, intricate symbols etched onto the engine block that mirrored those found on an old, leather-bound journal in my grandfather's workshop. The journal detailed his obsession with temporal anomalies and a resonance frequency he believed connected parallel realities. Then the camera's view shifted one last time. I wasn't in the Bronco anymore. I was standing in that same alleyway, surrounded by the shadowy figures. My grandfather stood before me, no longer a mechanic, but something older, something impossibly ancient. He raised his hand and pointed directly at me. The final image on the backup camera, not of the Bronco, not of the alleyway, but of myself, frozen in terror, recording everything. The Bronco shuddered violently. The humming ceased. The camera went dark. I slumped against the seat, gasping for breath, the rain still falling around me. As I slowly regained my senses, a single object lay on the dashboard, a small, intricately carved cogwheel made of what looked like polished obsidian. As I picked it up, examining it closely, I noticed something etched onto its surface, my own name. And then, I heard a faint whisper in my ear, "Welcome home." I realized with chilling clarity, the backup camera hadn't been recording my grandfather's last moments. It had been capturing my past, a fragmented timeline of my own existence, showcasing glimpses of who I was meant to become. The resonance frequency wasn't linking parallel realities. It was looping back on itself, perpetually recording and re-experiencing my life. My grandfather hadn't vanished 50 years ago. He had simply returned, trapped within the endless feedback loop of his own creation, a digital echo